Good evening, good evening. Good evening and welcome to the school board meeting for District 196. It is Monday, August 9th, 2021. Would you please rise and join us with the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Board, before we move on, we'll ask for approval of the agenda. The agenda is as outlined. There are no additions or deletions, so with that, I will ask for a motion in a second.
Move to approve. Second.
A motion by Craig, a second by Corey. With that, I will ask for a vote for approval. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. That passes on a 6-0 vote. And Sachin Isaacs is not available to be with us this evening. First of all, we'll turn it over to the superintendent for recognitions of students and staff.
Thank you. I'll start off with congratulations to 2018 Apple Valley High School graduate Gable Stevenson on winning the gold medal. Right? He was able to score 2 points. I think this whole audience is aware of this. Was able to score 2 points in the final second of his Olympic match in wrestling's 125 kilogram division. We are so proud of him and this incredible achievement. And congratulations to 2014 Rosemont High School graduate Peyton Otterdahl, who, after throwing his personal best during the track and field trials this spring, placed 10th overall in shot put in the Olympics. We are proud of his performance as well. And there is more. Congratulations to 2007 Egan High School graduate Mallory Wegeman, who will be swimming in her 3rd Paralympic Games later this month in Tokyo. Paralympic swimming takes place August 25th through September 3rd, so we will be cheering her on then. And congratulations to the 4 Rosemont High School spring sports coaches who were named State Coaches of the Year for their sports. They are Kelsey Long, girls lacrosse coach, Sarah and Jay Hatley, girls and boys track and field coaches, and Tiffany Rose, Rosemont softball coach. Congratulations to all.
Congratulations. Thank you, Superintendent Krieger. Next on the agenda is our special communication request. If you'd like to speak during special communication request, we ask that you submit a form at least 5 days in advance of the meeting, and you get up to 4 minutes to share your comments. We do use a timer. Corey's doing timing for us tonight, and we will remind speakers when they have 30 seconds remaining. We expect speakers to finish their remarks when their time expires. Speakers are also reminded not to share complaints about specific employees or make inappropriate comments. Opinions shared during the public forum portion of the meetings do not necessarily represent the views of the school board or the school district. The audience is expected to remain calm, civil, and not disrupt speakers from being heard. Speakers, when you come to the podium, would you please state your name and your connection to the school district? Our first speaker this evening under special communication request is Kevin Kubler.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Kevin Kubler, and I'm a citizen of District 196. Quote, "Black supremacy is as dangerous as white supremacy, and God is not interested merely in the freedom of black men. God is interested in the freedom of the whole human race." End quote. This was stated by Martin Luther King Jr., a racial activist in the face of the civil rights movement. His views were correct. Critical race theory is incompatible with his views. Critical race theory embodies the idea that America systematically creates white privilege, disadvantages minorities, especially blacks, and has a racially discriminatory justice system. This ideology is as false as a $3 bill. While statistics do show that blacks lead in incarceration, those who claim that this is due to racism are committing the fallacy of begging the question and are assuming what needs to be proved. Is the high rate of black incarceration due to racism or something else? According to the Bureau of Crime Statistics, blacks make up 13% of the population, yet are responsible for 52% of the nation's violent crime and 50% of the nation's homicides. In the 75 largest U.S. counties, about 60% of robbery and murder defendants are black, even though blacks comprise only 15% of the population in those counties. While this is a disparity, is it due to racism? No. It is due to broken, fatherless families and bad life choices. As Larry Elder points out, 75% of blacks are raised without fathers. This is significantly higher than any other ethnic group. Children raised without fathers are 3 times more likely to drop out of school, 9 times more likely to get involved in gangs, and 20 times more likely to go to prison. As we can see, the broken family and bad life choices is the major cause of this race incarceration disparity and not racism. Fathers play a crucial role in the moral development of their children. Those who cite the exceptionally rare events of Jacob Blake and Michael Brown and others conveniently leave out the fact that these men were resisting arrest and contributed to their own outcomes. Critical race theory is divisive. It's causing rapidly worsening race relations in this country. Its basic claims are not drawn from sound arguments. They are axioms that are not to be questioned. Critical race theorists want students to accept the assumption that anyone who fails to swallow this theory is a tool of oppression. It's a highly effective way of preventing dialogue and pitting students against students. This reminds us of the tactics of Nazi Germany. They too pitted one race against another. This is regressive, not progressive. Racial tensions are now the highest they have been in the 21st century and continue to intensify. Ask yourself this: regardless of your race, do you feel more comfortable amidst the ethnic diversity of your community now as a result of the events of the last 15 months, or do you feel less comfortable? Today, we have Black Lives Matter, but we can't say all lives matter. Nowadays, merely saying that all lives matter subjects one to ridicule and abuse. This demonstrates how racist and divisive critical race theory actually is. White privilege? I know of no affirmative action programs favoring whites. I know of no business which refuses to hire blacks. Can the same be said of whites? We have the magazine Ebony, devoted to only blacks, but a magazine devoted solely to whites would be deemed racist. This double standard is obvious and reinforced by critical race theory. It does so in a militant way. Critical race theory can only be believed by an evil and nefarious mind. Furthermore, as a supplier of the school board's salary, I am reminding the school board that they work for us, the citizens of District 196, and per their mission statement, they ought to not only reject critical race theory, but assist in the development of curriculum which addresses just how false and divisive critical race theory truly is, and how it was America's core value that all men are created equal that led to the end of systemic racism within America. Thank you.
Our next speaker this evening is Kayla Hauser. Yeah, go ahead. I just want to make sure. Make sure that the community knows that we're listening, and each speaker has been given 4 minutes, and so we're going to grace them with our listening to their comments, whether we agree with the comments or not.
Thank you. My name is Kayla Hauser. I have a...
Kayla, you might want to pull that microphone a little closer to your face.
Of course.
You're so quiet.
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Perfect. I'm Kayla Hauser, and I have a son in the school district. I am here tonight to bring more awareness for parents like myself who want more transparency with the school board. We want more parent-based decisions when it comes to raising our children. Thank you for currently making the final decision in regards to masking our children and vaccinating them with a non-FDA approved vaccine that is still in clinical trials till 2023. Please continue this. I want this board and the Union for Teachers to know parents are not going to take your fear-based reasons to treat our children like experimental guinea pigs. Before you write me off for what I'm about to say, please know I am a teacher myself. I fully get you're trying to protect yourself and your families, and I respect that. I respect you're doing this for what you think is right and what you feel. But I also want you to know that you give them back at the end of the day. They're not your flesh and blood. We put our hearts and souls into these children. And I understand you're doing what you think is best, but I do want you to know, this is not my number. Do you know how many children between the ages of 0 and 19 have died in Minnesota? Not from the vaccine itself, from the virus. 0. 0 children have died. My child is more likely to get bacterial pneumonia wearing this mask on all hours of the day than dying of COVID-19. That is not my number, as well as the WHO just recently said in a press conference that they have concluded asymptomatic people are not spreading this disease like they once thought. We need to stop making this generation live in fear over something they have a 100% survival rate. Most elderly have gotten their shot if they choose to. COVID, after being vaccinated, if you say they could still catch it, you are proving this shot is not a guarantee to save you. So if you think that the shot is going to help you, it's not. The shot has no value other than to line the pockets of the pharmaceutical companies. If public health is the main issue, why are we not advocating more vitamin D, eating healthy and staying active? Why isn't insulin and chemo not free? I thought EpiPens are supposed to be helpful. Why is that not free? If we want to make this country and our community safe, we need to start at our borders before mandating more rules in the classroom. As teachers and board members, you have a lot of influence in our children. But again, you give them back. You do not have the right to tell me what is safe for my child. You are freaking out about case numbers, which are not always 100% true. Where's the public outcry for obesity deaths, starvation deaths, suicidal deaths, regular flu deaths, war deaths, and many more? As Albert Einstein once said, the world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything. I want my kids to know it is better to have a big dream and fail than to sit on the sidelines to do nothing. Because the great thing about hitting rock bottom is a great foundation to rise up and conquer. Our voices hold power, and if my voice held no power, they would not try to silence concerned parents. Please continue to listen to parents before being bullied by the teachers' union. And if you want to see more research on vaccine side effects in children, check out Israel and see how it's going for them. Nothing will break your heart more than watching a video of an excited parent thinking they're going to protect their child, and then a few hours later, they're having seizures or they're in the ICU. When they give you the shot, they give you adult doses. Just like in the 90s when they didn't know what was going on with Ritalin and they gave them adult doses then. It worked out really well. I understand you're listening to doctors, but some of those doctors don't even know what they're doing. I appreciate you listening. Thank you.
Our next speaker this evening is Melissa Mensch.
Hi, I'm Melissa Meach, and I've got 2 kids in the school district right now. So, over the last few days, I've read some things that are rather alarming. Education Minnesota recently published a newsletter about parents and taxpayers showing up at board meetings and having the nerve to challenge educators and union reps on, quote, honesty in education. One of the local union reps leaders is quoted as saying, "We are planning on having speakers at every event. We're planning to get new teachers and teachers from different backgrounds. We have a local social justice committee and the group is making plans." Plans as to what, I'm not 100% sure. But based on the DCUE president in the same article, based on quotes, I can only assume it's planned to undermine the wishes of the very parents and taxpayers filling up this gym. What's even more alarming is when I read that the DCUE president felt they had the support of school board members, especially since, to my understanding, board members are supposed to represent constituents of the district rather than the teachers' unions. Now, it's my hope that the DCUE president maybe misconstrued something, but to be honest, I'm not 100% sure, especially when I see photos and hear stories about board members taking the time to thank union reps and teachers for showing up at these board meetings, yet not doing the same for their constituents. Instead, we get glares, eye rolls, closed body language, and comments about Fox News talking points, and yes, we all notice. Since these plans are being made without the input of parents and taxpayers, I want to make it very clear what I expect from educators and board members, because I'm tired of the gaslighting and the redefining of terms and concepts, and the colluded efforts by educators, union reps, and apparently board members to bypass parents and taxpayer wishes. As an educator, your only role in my children's life is to teach my children how to think, not what to think. I don't care if you believe 1 + 1 = 2, or if you don't believe it does. Your job is to teach my children how to get to the answer on their own, not what the answer is. You do not trump me as a parent on moral high ground. You have no right to teach my children between right and wrong when you're around my children less than 0.01% in their lifetime and probably interact with them directly less than that. You have no right to undermine what I've spent years trying to instill in them, that they are more than the color of their skin and more than just victims of white people. You have no right to teach my children they are oppressed and cannot accomplish anything without the white man's permission. You have no right to teach my children how to be anti-racist by viewing the world through a Eurocentric lens. I could care less if you wholeheartedly believe it or not. All I care about is what you're teaching my children. Teju Cole once said, "The white savior supports brutal policies in the morning, funds charities in the afternoon, and receives awards in the evening." The white savior industrial complex is not about justice. It's about having a big emotional experience that validates privilege. It appears in this school district, the idea of oppression has to be reinforced in the minds of BIPOC students so educators and union reps can have that emotional experience. I really hope you think about this the next time you post photos of yourself adorned in black shirts on social media, using my children as your stepping stone to get praise and recognition for your work in, quote, honesty in education.
Our next speaker is Seth Fine. Oh, I'm sorry. Seth is not with us this evening. The next speaker then is Evan and Lisa Powell.
Good evening, my name is Evan Powell. My wife and I are parents of an incoming elementary school student in the district. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
My name is Evan Powell. My wife and I are parents of an incoming elementary school student in the district. I'm an attorney, and I'm also deeply concerned about the district's decision not to follow evidence-based expert advice requiring masks for everybody in the district school buildings. I'd like to start with some facts. Today in this country, on average, more children, over 215 of them, will be newly admitted to the hospital with COVID-19 than any prior day, even compared to last fall when vaccines were available. This number is increasing. On top of this, no child under 12 can yet be vaccinated, and long-haul COVID is a reality for up to 15% or more of all COVID cases, not just those hospitalized, including thousands and thousands of children who catch COVID-19 each day. Here's the most important fact. This school board has the power to protect its students' health while in school and reduce these interruptions to education, but it hasn't decided to do so. Issue. The Minnesota Department of Health, the CDC, the American Association of Pediatrics, the Minnesota Department of Education, and other state and federal agencies and expert organizations have recommended that K-12 schools follow and implement current CDC recommendations of universal indoor masking for all students, staff, teachers, visitors, regardless of vaccination status. The school board has equivocated and said they will not require what's not mandated by these organizations, so the board will not implement anything and has merely restated their recommendations. Why is this an issue? I think there are several problems with the district's reasoning and the result. First, who has the power? The federal government can only mandate compliance for local education issues that implicate constitutional rights or where it is agreed in exchange for funding. State agencies can only mandate by law or under the governor's emergency order, which is the force and effect of law. Expert medical organizations can only advise persuasively. The simple conclusion is that this board is the body with the authority to implement the recommendations, and that is why the guidance that schools follow the recommendations, which can only mean mandating compliance. As to ease of administration, if the board mandates masks, it's easier to roll back that requirement, perhaps sometime after everyone can be vaccinated, than it will be to re-implement a mask mandate mid-year. Teachers and administrators implemented the state's mask mandate last year and this summer. Bright line rules and maintaining the status quo are easiest for educators. There will be exceptions, and no one expects everyone to comply, but mandates have better compliance than mere recommendations. What's the board's responsibility? The board's own website says the board's responsible for developing policy and supporting the mission of educating our students to reach their full potential. The board can mandate a masking policy, and doing so supports the board's goals. It keeps more students and staff healthy and able to learn and achieve. It realizes we all need to act to have greater effect, and it protects everyone equally, especially the most vulnerable among us. An example in education where a mandate protects us all is that state law mandates anti-bullying action by districts and schools. This board has specific mandates regarding anti-bullying. To compare, would the board not implement any anti-bullying policies if it were not required to do so? I, for one, hope not. I believe the district wants to do better than the minimum standard. Are these statements about anti-bullying persuasive? Because this is what people say about masking. Why should we follow the guidelines if I don't think it's a problem? My kid's uncomfortable discussing bullying. My family should choose whether I get to address bullying. My family isn't worried about it, so those families that want to address it should do so. And finally, very, very few children die of bullying or are affected by bullying, so why should we have a policy to address it? Those arguments are not persuasive in that example, and it's not persuasive regarding mask mandates. I think it's clear. I think that's clear. A few requests of you of this. Ask whether you're taking all reasonable actions to protect every person in your building. The goal is mitigating harm. We can act reasonably even if there's no perfect option. Beware logical fallacies. Anger is contagious energy, and so is selfishness. I think it's clear what is the angry, selfish choice here, and so do the experts. In closing, we avoid harms in society all the time by making reasonable precautions mandatory. How do we know this is reasonable, that masking is reasonable and the benefits outweigh any costs? Because the experts in public health, education, and pediatric medicine have said so, and they have asked you to act. The board should require masks for all in school buildings, regardless of vaccination status. At least the board owes an explanation of its reasoning, how it engages the community in open meeting laws, and what indicia it will use to make future decisions on this issue. I'll follow up with a letter to you all. I appreciate the time.
Our next speaker is Zach Bauer.
Hi, my name is Zach Bauer. I'm the father to a second grader and a kindergarten in the district. First, I want to thank the board for making masks optional this year for our kids. On behalf of the parents in this room, please continue to let accurate scientific data drive decisions on these matters. There's a legal term called assumption of risk, which means a plaintiff cannot hold the defendant responsible if the plaintiff knowingly exposed him or herself to the possibility of injury. Please continue to allow parents to make these decisions. If the concern is risk of spread to staff, all teachers and staff have had ample opportunity to get vaccinated if they so choose and are assuming the risk for themselves. The CDC has proven to be susceptible to political pressure, and the recent recommendations for all students to wear masks to attend school in person lack scientific justification. When the recommendation was first made, they could not provide data to back it up other than a study in India related to a vaccine not available in the U.S. The CDC's own website shows the death rate from COVID still remains statistically flat. The rate of hospitalization from breakthrough infections is roughly 1 in 25,000 for vaccinated individuals. On a 70 rolling average, more people in the U.S. die in car crashes. If we lowered all speed limits to 40 miles per hour, I'm sure we'd save a lot of lives, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Although many things have been nebulous about COVID-19, one fact has been clear since the beginning. Children, especially young children, are not at risk. As of July 1st, data from the MDH and CDC concludes that children have a 99.999% survival rate. This statistic alone says it all. Because students are not at risk from COVID-19, they do not need masks, they do not need a vaccine, they do not need to socially distance in order to be safe. Students are already safe. Imposing masks, requiring vaccines, or placing other restrictions on students learning due to COVID-19 is unnecessary and utterly abusive. Not only are masks unnecessary, but they can also be unsafe. Face coverings hide expressions integral to human connection, such as signals of fear, confusion, and happiness. Dental studies show a rise in gum disease and tooth decay in a condition called mask mouth. Masks can increase risk of illness because they trap exhaled viruses, which are then re-inhaled. In Florida, 6 children's masks were tested by a lab after being worn for 5 to 8 hours. The analysis detected 11 dangerous pathogens, including pneumonia, tuberculosis, and meningitis. Masks reduce intake of oxygen and lead to carbon dioxide toxicity. In June, a randomized clinical trial in Germany showed that after only 3 minutes, children wearing masks, carbon dioxide levels climbed 6 times higher than the legal limit for an indoor space. This can lead to dizziness, shortness of breath, and decreased neurological function. There is no statistical scientific evidence to justify forcing healthy kids who are not at risk to wear masks whose effectiveness is questionable and that are shown to be detrimental to their development. Since the beginning of the pandemic, 349 kids under the age of 18 have died of COVID-19, every one of them tragic. For perspective, there were roughly 3.6 million known cases in that age group, a death rate of 0.0097% in the course of the last 18 months. Percentages in terms of increase can sound scary, but a 100% increase from 2 is just 4. Most statistics used to support recent measures and recommendations are given in percentages rather than raw numbers for one reason: fear. The raw data presents a different picture. The CDC's website shows a current U.S. 7-day COVID death rate of 1 in 100,000. According to the National Weather Service, a person has a 1 in 15,000 chance of getting struck by lightning. Fear is natural and healthy. It can help us respond to danger more quickly or avoid a dangerous situation altogether. But it can also cause us to worry about the wrong things, especially when it comes to estimating our levels of risk. If safety is always number one, nothing would ever get done, as there is risk in everything we do. It is our job as free citizens to make decisions for ourselves and our families on how to live our lives, balancing level of risk with the ability to live full and experience-filled lives. If you try to take away liberty without good, data-driven reasoning, you will create a mass exodus from your schools. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jerry Sariano.
Can you hear me? My name is Jerry Soriano. I'm a resident of 196. On July 26, 2021, at the last school board meeting, we heard a young student give her account of what she and her friends experienced firsthand with regards to bullying in District 196. The first instance ended with her informing the principal of Rosemount Middle School, and according to her, the bully wrote a letter of apology. The problem persisted. The second instance was a friend who was bullied, and when they approached a staff member, they were told, quote unquote, to suck it up, persevere, and finish strong. She tried to explain, after which, why critical race theory would help with regards to what her and her friends had gone through. She ran out of time, after which she was given a round of applause by the District 196 faculty, staff, and supporters. What was my takeaway? The district failed her. Twice she gave an example of what her and her friends had gone through. The faculty and staff of District 196 failed to help her. Both Rosemount Middle School and high school have anti-bullying pages on their website, yet nothing was done to help these students. To be clear, the faculty and staff that were approached failed her. If the actions and actions of a few are representative of the whole, then maybe we should be thinking of defunding the teachers' union. With all the rhetoric that is used with regards to providing a safe, inclusive, equitable school system, it seems clear that when it comes time to doing what is necessary, you simply choose not to. To our superintendent, you two have failed. It was under your watch that these two incidents occurred. For a child to come up here and ask for critical race theory, a concept so evil that it exists only to bring people down so they can feel better about themselves, is reprehensible. At the last school board meeting, the call for your resignation was put out. I echo that call. Step down, superintendent. You no longer have our children's best interest in mind. To the school board, you too have failed. The hubris that you show everyone when you come in these meetings. I observed how you cozy up to everyone on one side of the room while completely ignoring the others. We put you there to look out for our children's best interests. You went to bed with this union who is clearly more interested in giving themselves congratulations and pats on the back, all the while pushing their own agenda on our children. It is time to reevaluate this relationship with the union. If they no longer have the best interest of our children, if they are unable or unwilling to teach the basics that our children need in order to be able to be responsible, contributing members of society, then it's time for them to go. I also echo the call from the last school board meeting for the school board members who no longer have our children's best interest in mind to step down. You no longer have our confidence in doing what is right. The unfortunate thing about speaking in these open forums is that you risk offending people. I know I will receive backlash for speaking out. So for the record, I am Jerry Soriano. I am a resident of District 196. I'm a parent of a school-aged child. I'm a former coach and substitute teacher. I was 18 when I came to this country in 1993. 30 years later, I have a loving wife, 5 beautiful children, 1 energetic grandchild, and a life I could only have dreamed of. The United States has given me many opportunities, just like it does every person who is willing to work hard and give their all. I am not marginalized. I am not and have never been oppressed. I am an immigrant and I am an American citizen, and I refuse to sacrifice our children's future for anyone's gains.
Our next speakers are Daniel Wong and Retno Sari Durong.
Superintendent Krieger, Chairperson Magnuson, and school board members, thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Danielle Wong, pronouns she, hers, and I'm a 2016 graduate from Eastview High School. History informs the way we view the past, how we address the realities of the present, and where we move forward to in the future. When we don't learn our history and aren't given spaces to have brave conversations that contextualize this history, we are set up to be harmed and cause harm. Let me give a couple of examples. One of the many pieces of history that my schools failed to teach me was the Page Act of 1875, which actually predates the Chinese Exclusion Act. Up until this last year, I had no idea that the Page Act specifically prohibited the entry of Chinese women because of societal beliefs that they were immoral, highly manipulative, sexual beings, and only entering the US to work as prostitutes. In 1870, California Senator Cornelius Cole said that Chinese women, quote, spread disease and moral death among our white population. This is where prejudice becomes material, where bigotry becomes systemic. From the moment I was born, I was racialized by a history that predated me, and by being denied access to the history of Asian American women, I was set up to normalize harm against myself. Due to this hypersexualization of Asian women that went unaddressed when it was left out of our school's curriculum, my classmates throughout grade school felt justified making sexual comments about me, tying it specifically to my being an Asian woman, comments I wouldn't even repeat here in this forum. In March, we saw yet another manifestation of this normalized violence toward Asian women after a white gunman specifically targeted Asian-owned spas in Atlanta and was witnessed saying, quote, "I'm going to kill all Asians," that he had a, quote, sexual addiction, and that the spas were a, quote, temptation for him that he wanted to, quote, eliminate. When students aren't taught, and intentionally taught, about harm and held accountable, when they're not taught about their actions being racist, students of color are the ones to face the consequences, further perpetuating inequity and making schools unsafe, making our world unsafe. Not only did I experience harm, but I witnessed other students of color be harmed by their classmates and teachers, and I was put in the position to be complicit or do the same to them because I was never taught otherwise. As a continuation of enslavement and anti-Black racism, which we are not adequately taught about in school, Black children are expected to have the maturity of adults and punished for exhibiting age-appropriate behavior. Research has shown that this adultification has been, and still is, used to justify their mistreatment and harsh punishment in school settings. Growing up, I watched as teachers in my classrooms publicly called out black girls in class for being too loud or obnoxious, while white boys exhibiting disruptive behavior were simply laughed off as being the class clown. I, too, began to parrot that same language and would describe my black girl classmates as being sassy and too loud to keep secrets. In many cases, I exuded unspoken feelings of intellectual superiority every time I was called on to provide an answer over my black classmates. Now, as I've gotten older, I have realized that in these moments, I was being conditioned to internalize anti-blackness and misogynoir rather than unlearning harmful racist ideologies. I was being set up to cause harm. While I was afforded teachers who praised my intellectual abilities and went above and beyond to meet my needs, it was always at the expense of my black classmates who were refused resources, discarded, and mistreated. In your free time, look up the model minority myth. I share all of this to affirm the work being done by the Minnesota Department of Education to reformat its history curriculum to be more equitable and accurate, and push District 196 to hold itself accountable to its marginalized students and put in the work to make us feel safe. I look forward to seeing the school board push past the noise and build the more equitable, inclusive, and just schools you've all been advocating so hard for. Thank you.
Our next speaker this evening is Marcus Johnson.
Hi, my name is Marcus Johnson, and my wife and I have 2 boys in the district. I just wanted to start by pointing something out tonight. I've been attending a lot of these board meetings this year, and there's something I've noticed that's really disturbing for everybody. Division, right? Yeah. We're all divided. I mean, there's 2 sides here. You have the teachers and supporters on this side of the room with masks on and anti-racism shirts, which is great, and you have concerned parents on this side, right? And they're not wearing masks.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry? Okay.
Excuse me. We're going to talk and listen calmly.
Can I speak?
And civilly, or we will take a break
Is
and
this
we
a
will
dialogue,
we
or
won't
is-
remove.
or can I speak?
Excuse me, yes.
Okay. So where was I? Is my time still going? Okay. So this side, what I'm wondering is the mask appears to be political tonight. That's what I see. Really? Let's take a picture. Okay. Anyway, I'm here to speak in regards to the upcoming school year. We have a 5-year-old starting kindergarten and a 4th grader hoping we have a normal year for the first time in 2 years. Note, I'm not a scientist, but I can do math and I can read charts. It's not that hard. So, I'm not a doctor. So this first poster just shows, sorry, I should speak into the mic here. This is basically just a 7-day rolling average. Anybody can look at this up on the CDC website, okay? And what that shows is the blue lines are the daily deaths. The red line is the rolling 7-day average. And the orange line is the per capita per 100,000 population. And as we know, this was the first phase. This was last summer. This was the awful fall and winter that we all went through, right? And then vaccinations started in December, January, and they're fully rolled out. Anybody can get one right now. And look what happened. I am pro-vaccinated. I am pro-vaccine. I am vaccinated. My wife's vaccinated, okay? We're very proud of that. But what I wanted to show you, currently, this is where we're at. There's not much death going on, right? So my one statistic I wanted to show about this, on January 14th, which is my birthday, the rolling day average was 3,887 deaths on the 7-day rolling average. Do you know what we're at now? 454. That means heart disease, 1,800 people die a day, cancer, 1,600, diabetes, 240. We're at one of the lowest 7-day rates we've been at. Chart doesn't lie. Second chart is just deaths in the U.S. as of August 4th by age. And what do you see there? Okay? 0 to 17, which is all of our students in this district, there's only been 349 deaths. Out of 75 million? That's a point, what is that? That's a point, the death rate for that age group mathematically is 0.0097. I mean, math doesn't lie. I'm sorry, but this age group is what I'm happy about. The 50 to 85-year-olds that are the most vulnerable, most of them are getting vaccinated. And you know what? The death rate is way down. We should all be proud of that. Should we not? Okay. Now, the last one thing I hope I can get in here, my time, I'll be done soon, I promise, is hospitalizations and ICU hospitalizations. This is just right off of Minnesota Department of Health's website. All I did was just copy and paste and put it on a poster. So basically, as you saw, this was the winter craziness when we had no vaccines. Okay, this was our April, May time. Right now,
Thank you. No. We gave him an extra 30 seconds. Thank you. Our last speaker this evening is John Schaefer.
Is this good? I know people have had issues with it, so. All right. My name is John Schaefer, and good evening, everybody. I'm a parent of a soon-to-be kindergartner in the school district. As the parent of this child, I would like to address you regarding your responsibility to ensure my child is educated with strong academic foundations and a healthy, happy, and safe environment. As a former teacher in Oklahoma City Public Schools, I was expected to do all of these things, regardless of whether I liked it or not. I trusted that our board and our superintendent would do the right thing at all times. I disagreed with them a lot of the times, but I still did it as a teacher because it was the right thing to do. If I were a teacher in this district, you would expect me to educate students using the Minnesota K-12 academic standards, along with ensuring their safety every day. If I were a teacher in this district, you would expect me to design my instruction using the latest statistical data based on individual and state tests. If I needed to change the instruction for individual students, classroom subjects, you would still expect me to follow the opinions of educational experts. You would expect nothing less of me, and you would hold me accountable for the education, health, and safety of my students in this district. As a parent, I'm expecting you to make decisions regarding my child's education, health and safety based on the experts in those areas. When it comes to health and safety, especially during a pandemic, the experts are the Center for Disease Control and the American Academy of Pediatrics, along with our state and health department. Recently, all of these experts have said that students do belong in the classroom with masks, social distancing, and other mitigation protocols. It is your responsibility to make sure that these things happen, period. Cases are rising across the country amongst the age group that my child represents, and I'm concerned for her safety at school. I should not be in a position to decide, does she get educated or does she live? I shouldn't have to make that decision. I have a lot of friends that are teachers. I have a lot of family that are teachers. I love teachers. I was a proud union member as well as a teacher. I would have done anything for my kids. And I know my board would have done the same, along with the superintendent, when it's the right thing to do. Last year, while many states did not mandate masks, including my mother and brother and my best friend, their school districts did, even against the will and want of their governors. All of them made it through the school year with mask mandates, and social distancing. Many of these schools had no cases because of this. Or if there was a case and one of them being a teacher, nobody got infected because of the mask. And that class went on for the rest of the year. Nobody had to go home. These protocols were obviously successful. My mom, in fact, taught kindergarten and found that students did not feel annoyed, abused, etc., with having to wear a mask. They understood that their teachers were trying to keep them healthy and safe. When the CDC and AAP announced the guidelines for this school year, their health department and their school board, against their governor's will, said, hey, we're going to do this as well. And in fact, nearly every other school district in a very conservative state in the surrounding counties went ahead and did this anyways. Making masks optional means hardly anyone will wear them, and the children who will be subjected to questioning, teasing, and bullying. I saw it all the time as an elementary teacher over less trivial things than this. I implore you to follow the guidance of the experts in this pandemic and keep my child and the rest of the children and staff in this district as safe as possible.
We've come to the end of our special communication. Can I help you? No. We've come to the end of our special communication request tonight, and we'll move on to the items of the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda, that was, we have no open forum. I know. We're going to move on to the items of the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda this evening, we have the minutes. Do we need to just take a break? Under the consent agenda, we have the minutes of the July 26th, 2021 regular school board meeting. Pardon me? We have gifts, we have grants, we have personnel, we have the catastrophe accident insurance. We have election. We're gonna, excuse me, we're gonna